Saturday morning. And they had established this for many years. And there was about 60, 70, 80 people coming for the morning program. Yeah. And many of them didn't even come on Sundays, although they should come to talk to people, you know. But not everybody, unfortunately, is in that mood. The Saturday program was a must, you know. And some people came for Mangaladi, some people came for Darshanati and Prabhupada Guru Puja, that at least once a week we have a nice Prabhupada Guru Puja and a good kirtan. They had quite a longer kirtan and, you know, yes. And then a deeper Bhagavatam class. And then they had like a whole brunch, you know. It was almost like a Sunday feast. And this is just such a good idea. So I tried on my travels around the world, I tried to inspire this in other places, but yeah, not so easy to get this happening, you know. But yeah, just since you're trying to have that vision, I simply wanted to share that actually all the more seriously practicing devotees, they should come on the Saturday morning, you know. More nourishing than the Sunday program, you know, yes. And then often, you know, they in Ukraine, they had all kinds of educational programs on Saturdays after the morning program, after the breakfast, and all kinds of meetings and you know, so that people actually had that vision. The Saturday is for temple life, you know, for the more seriously practicing devotees. And Sunday is a preaching program, you know. Yeah, so of course, best if we come both, for both. But definitely, I dare say, the Saturday morning program should get more priority because Bhagavatam is just more nourishing, you know, and especially if there's a great breakfast where you can maybe take something home for lunch or something, you know, then it's also a practical consideration. Okay, I get some good prasadam there, and yeah, I don't have to cook so much for the rest of the day. Okay, so I simply wanted to share that just to encourage people. How many people are online? Can you see that? Sorry, this is not. Huh? Anyway. Because also let me say this, that online and being present, nine. Yeah, so please hear this and next time come. Because online and being personally present, not the same, you know? When we are online, we do so many other things. It's actually inattentive hearing. So many things fly past our ears, we don't even hear them. And well, on Sunday, tomorrow, we talk about the power of consciousness in the Sunday program. So actually, consciousness travels on sound vibration. So it's very subtle, but we can capture so much more from a person when we are in the presence of a person. Maybe not from me, no problem, but, you know, from great sadhus. Yes, the consciousness, the devotion, the, you know, the sublime qualities a sadhu carries in his heart, they travel on the sound vibration, and the camera can't capture that. So the main thing we actually miss out when we watch online. Yeah. And I'm sure we all have that experience. Being there for Darshan Adi is a whole different thing than just watching it online, right? Yes, because the deities, they emanate some powerful energy, and that we're missing out, you know? Yes, so all these considerations are there. Plus, we should be keen, you know, Rupa Goswami tells us, Lolyam greed for Krishna. So we manifest that by having this mood. Nothing can stop me from going to the temple. I want to be there, even if I have to drive for 1 hour. Here, Mataji, she drove for a whole hour here just to come this morning because we know each other. Yeah. So that's, it's actually parikrama. We shouldn't even drive, we should walk, But all right, you're allowed to drive, But that is a whole part of the purifying process that, yes, I'm going to be there. I go, no matter what, Yes, then we really make some advancement. But if we think, so far I have it cozy here in my lounge room and I can take my breakfast and all this, then we're missing out. We are cheating ourselves, actually. Okay, just as a little introduction. So our topic, our lecture this morning is a topic-related Bhagavatam class. So we are not reading the usual verse and we are not going according to the usual format, but it's a topic-related one. And the topic is envy, the main obstruction within our relationships. Yeah. So this is quite an interesting topic. I like to discuss these subtle topics, which hopefully inspire internal work and reflection and transformation. Yes. Yes, so let me just share a few introductory words before we get to the topic, because we will discuss one verse from the Bhagavatam, 4.834, but please don't look it up now, because I hope time will permit. I like to do it a little interactively. And if you look at it, then of course you can give the answers very easily. Yes. So this verse discusses how envy and non-envy manifest towards seniors, equals, and juniors. Very practical and relevant for our daily life. And this discussion is not meant to discover the envy in other people's hearts, but in our heart. Yes, because especially when we discuss how envy manifests towards juniors, then very easily the contaminated intelligence says, just see, I always knew my senior is actually envious of me, and that's why he treats me like this. We don't want to go that way. Because if we use this discussion to try and identify the envy in other people's hearts, so what does that mean? That we are envious. Yes, that's what it means. So let's not allow our envy to manifest in such a gross way. And yeah, envy, we like to keep ourselves in this illusion that, we don't have this ugly quality. Of course not. But others, they are so envious, and especially of me, right? Yes, but I don't have that. And we like to sweep it under the carpet and pretend that we don't have that. So that's why there is one funny little comment Prabhupada makes in a word-for-word translation that's in the 5th canto. There it says in the word-for-word translation, halaha, meaning the envious, and then Prabhupada puts in brackets, almost everyone. Prabhupada has a good sense of humor to get the points across. So almost everyone means most likely it includes me too. Why should I be the big exception, which is not, affected by envy? Yeah, and also usually we like to use this term envy in a sense that we are envious of somebody who has something which we don't have. But I like to see things a little broader, that it's actually a certain state of heart. And it comes out in all relationships, not only towards superiors or seniors, but also towards equals and towards juniors. Yeah, even towards juniors, even towards children, it can manifest. Yeah, because it's a certain consciousness, it's a certain state of heart, and it comes out. And the verse and purport will confirm this. And then another thing to introduce the topic, let us understand where envy comes from. So, as soon as we strive for sense enjoyment, which we all do, that's why we are here in the material world, to a more greater or lesser degree. So as soon as we strive for sense gratification, envy immediately comes along, because we want to use every situation to establish our superiority, that we are actually a bit better and we, enjoy more. And so, envy and sense gratification, they move around together. And of course, this desire to enjoy comes from the false ego, because we think ourselves to be something which we are not. And we think we are the greatest enjoyer. So, and then the envy comes. So, envy, false ego, they're good friends. They always move around together. And false ego comes first, that we identify ourselves as the enjoyer, and then immediately the envy enters. Yeah, and that's why practically everybody in this material world is actually envious, because we are only here because we are trying to enjoy. Yeah. All right, so much as a little introduction. So we will not chant the whole verse properly and all that, just to save a bit of time. But I will just go once through the Sanskrit. So the verse is 4th canto, 8th chapter, verse 34. And the Sanskrit goes as follows. Gunadikam mudam lipset anukrusham gunadamat maitrim samanad anvichen atapya vibhuyate. No need to post it. And we go to the translation and purport. So please try to hear attentively, because we want to collect the different aspects of envious, non-envious behavior, and it's all mentioned in the verse and the purport. So, translation by Srila Prabhupada. Every man, and here man means human, Prabhupada often uses man just for human being, So every man should act like this. When he meets a person more qualified than himself, he should be very pleased. When he meets someone less qualified than himself, he should be compassionate towards him. And when he meets someone equal to himself, he should make friendship. In this way, one is never affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. So that's the non-envious behavior. And this last statement is quite powerful, that if we just learn how to act in a non-envious way, we will never be affected by the threefold miseries of this material world. Wow, amazing. That shows that this envy is really the root cause for all our miseries, actually. I just did. You read, that's that was the verse. No, that's the translation. Yeah. So now comes the purport. Prabhupada says, generally, when we find someone more qualified than ourselves, we become envious. So Prabhupada uses here the term envy towards somebody who is more qualified. When we find someone less qualified, we deride him. That's also envy. And when we find someone equal, we become very proud of our activities. That's also envy, actually. Yeah. These are the causes of all material tribulation. So one more time, the statement is there. You know. The great sage Narada therefore advised that a devotee should act perfectly. Instead of being envious of a more qualified man, one should be jolly to receive him. Instead of being oppressive to a less qualified man, one should be compassionate towards him, just to raise him to the proper standard. And when one meets an equal, instead of being proud of one's own activities before him, one should treat him as a friend. One should also have compassion for the people in general who are suffering due to forgetfulness of Krishna. And now the last sentence, usually very often in Prabhupada's purports, the last sentence is again hitting the nail on the head. These important functions will make one happy within this material world. So a third time, this statement comes that if we just learn how to be non-envious, we can be happy. But aren't we always saying we can't be happy in this world? So it seems to contradict each other, but actually it doesn't. Because, as we said, envy comes from the desire to enjoy. So a person who is actually truly non-envious must be a pure devotee, actually. Right? Yeah. Free from any kinds of sense gratification. And a pure devotee within his consciousness, he's already in the spiritual world, or she, you know? Yeah. So for that person, no difference. They are fully absorbed in hearing and chanting the glories about the Lord, of the Lord, and serving him in all different ways. And so then we can be happy anywhere, because within our mind, we are not part of the material world anymore. We're already somewhere else. You know? So even here in Philadelphia, we can be happy if we learn how to become non-envious. Okay, so now let us go through these different relationships. Let us begin with a relationship towards seniors. So what was the non-envious behavior towards seniors? Who remembers? How do we receive a senior? Yes, we become pleased, we are jolly, happy to receive him. So in other words, if we are envious, then we are not so happy to receive him. Right? Oh no, not he is coming, okay. So, and we may have some plastic smile there in our face going up to him. Oh, nice to see you, Prabhu. How long are you staying? Oh, 3 days. Oh, good, you know. And we, in our heart, we think, oh, thank God, after 3 days, he's leaving again. So I have the show to myself here. I'm the center of attention. Yeah, all these things are going on, you know, in a rather subtle way. Yeah, I mean, where is it? Manu Samhita. Oh, somewhere there's the statement, if we are not happy to see a devotee, that's already Vaishnava Aparad. Yeah. So, and, huh? Skanda Puran. Okay. Yes. Yes, there's a whole row of things. What's all Vaishnava Aparad? Yeah, so, and Yeah, if we think about ourselves, I'm sure we all have people in our lives where we're not so happy to see them and we kind of look the other way or something. Yeah, it's actually quite right. So what else do we do when we are envious of a senior? Let's imagine a senior person visits our temple. So what else do we do when we are envious? We're not only not jolly in receiving him, but what else? We're all pretty good at that. We are criticizing, exactly. We find some faults, fault finding, criticizing behind his or her back. Yes, So why do we do this? To minimize that person's position and indirectly establish our superiority. Let us look at a practical example of everyday life in an ISKCON temple. Let's imagine a senior person comes and leads a kirtan, and a friend of ours says, "Oh, that was a nice kirtan, wasn't it?" And then we say, "Yeah, it was all right, but," and we find something, "but this Madanga playing needs a bit of improvement," or the tune was a little weird, I couldn't connect with that melody, we find something. Now, the interesting thing is, even if it is true that his Madanga playing needs improvement and the tune was a little unusual. So even if it is true, just the fact that we feel impelled to make the statement shows we are envious. Yeah. And this is one thing we often miss, because we think, well, it's true. Can't I speak the truth? What's wrong with that? I'm just sharing my experience of the kirtan, so can't I say what's true? Freedom of speech, modern America, But yeah, it's so subtle, The contaminated intelligence justifies it. Yeah, it's true. So what's wrong with that? But actually, if we reflect and look in our heart when we say these things, if we are a little honest, we have to see that, yeah, there is actually a little envy there. I'm trying to minimize the person's position. That's behind it. So subtle, so subtle, We quite commonly do this, Yes, yeah, we do. We do. And we don't even realize that we shouldn't be doing these things. We don't even realize this is my envy there coming out. And what else do? We criticize, fault find, and there's one more thing what we commonly do to minimize a person's importance. What's that? Showing we know better than him or her, yeah. But also we ignore the person. We simply give him no attention. We don't even see the person. Not worthwhile saying Hare Krishna to, we just ignore. Yeah. Also not so uncommon. Yeah, so these are the main ways how the envy manifests towards superiors or seniors and so on. So now the non-envious way, we mentioned it already, we are jolly to receive him. And what else do we do? The non-envious way, how do we associate? We all know.
Just look for some good qualities about him.
Yes. And what else? What do we do practically? How do we associate?
Accept the instruction.
Yeah, we're inquiring. And what else? We serve them exactly, pariprasnena sevaya. So that's not only towards Guru, but actually towards anybody who has a little more experience than we have. That's how we take advantage of a more experienced person's presence. And interestingly, this serving, humble service, and inquiry, these two aspects enhance each other. So they enhance each other. So the humble service mood puts us in the right frame of mind to hear from the person. And then the more we hear, the more we want to serve, and the more we serve, we want to hear. And so they enhance each other. And they are very important aspects of spiritual life, that we are eager to hear and inquire and learn from this person and so on. Maybe you also noticed in these modern days, people often prefer to talk about themselves rather than inquiring. People like to, talk about themselves, what they all do and this and that. And in the presence of a more experienced person would be a little inappropriate. It has that flavor that the person wants to boast and show off how great the person is and all that. And so only if somebody asks us, so what service are you doing and what are you doing for work and this and that, so then we can happily share. But and to ask relevant questions is also not so easy, to actually think of something to ask. Yes. So that's how we squeeze some nectar out of a person. So let's move on to relationship towards juniors. The envious behavior. Who remembers what the verse and purport said? No, envious. You're one step ahead of us.
To divide them.
Sorry? Yeah, to deride them, be oppressive, make fun out of them on their expense, especially in a crowd of others, to make some jokes and make him look foolish. And, so even though the person is already in a subordinate position, we kind of enjoy that fact in a perverted way. And we try to make clear that everybody understands I'm superior. Like that. Yes, we are oppressive. We talk in a condescending way. We talk down on the person and so on. And basically, we have this mood. Yes, I want you to come up, but definitely not higher than I am. I'm up here. You will always be down there. And we may feel threatened, if the person actually manifests better capacities and so on than we have. And we don't like that. All these things are so subtle, so subtle. Even in regards to delegating a task to somebody else. There is an envious and non-envious way to delegate. So the envious way to delegate is that we have this mood, either you do it or I do it. And okay, you want to do it? Good luck, you do it. And we don't follow up. We don't ask, oh, how are you doing? Do you need some help? Do you need some manpower, some money, some good advice? No, we don't ask. And we cannot justify it. I mean, the contaminated intelligence can justify anything. And we justify, well, I'm busy and he wants to do it, so let him do it. I'm too busy, But actually, deep in our heart, we maybe hope that he will not be that successful. And then we can say, just see, I knew you shouldn't have done it. I should have done it, but you wanted to do it. So there you go. You see the outcome. Even these things easily creep in. Yes. Yes. Yeah, so, but the non-envious way of delegating, we want the person to be successful and more glorious than as if I had done it, and we do everything to help the person to do it in a wonderful way, and we let him take the credit, or her, I usually say him, but I mean both, all genders, whatever it may be. So, yeah, we really want the person's success, and we let him get the credit. We don't say, oh, by the way, I was the one who did it after all. No, we don't say that. Yes. And yeah, envy towards juniors, there's a couple more things. What else do we do with a junior when we are envious? We don't give them chances, yeah. We may engage the person in too menial service, not recognizing his, abilities. Although we also have to understand when a person comes newly, Prabhupada was saying, we should become a humble servant. We should just clean the floor and do a humble menial service. Otherwise, if we immediately, especially if a person has material qualifications, but is still young in Krishna consciousness, then very easily, if we immediately engage them in that capacity, it can make us a little proud that we think, oh, just see, I can do all these things, and these based out brahmanas, they don't even know what I'm all doing and all this. So, and that kind of proud attitude would ruin our whole cultivation of bhakti. So that's why no harm to first initially let people do some humble service, even if they're very qualified. And then gradually, as they also get some spiritual qualification, or we can have a mixed program like that. But if for many years we just keep people, just cleaning the floor all the time, so then we should ask ourselves, well, maybe there's some other reason there in my head why I'm not, giving people some more interesting and demanding service. And then there is one more thing. This may not be so easy to guess. When we are constantly and unnecessarily and overly harshly correct and instruct the person all the time and chastise, this may very well indicate that, there's some envy there. And this is the point where we shouldn't think, oh, to see, I knew my authorities, they are envious, they always chastise and correct me or something. So we don't want to go that way. But if it's overly harshly and constantly and unnecessarily correcting, instructing, chastising, sometimes this also happens towards children. Especially when mothers are overworked and stressed out at work, and then at the evenings they pick up their child, and the child hasn't seen the mother all day. And then often, child wants some attention, and the mother is so frustrated from a whole busy day, and there's also some envy there, of course. And then we ventilate it with children. I sometimes see this even in airports or on the plane, that people just scream at their kids, and they're often so small and can't even understand what's happening, and really lash out, these things. And that's envy, actually, that we enjoy in a perverted way our superiority there and really let them feel it that we are superior. There is actually a Vaishnav etiquette rule which says that we should only correct others if we are non-envious. So, but we said, Prabhupada says almost everyone is envious, so that would mean nobody can correct anybody. So how do we deal with that? Well, we should know that actually, and this is again a very subtle and interesting point, even if the correction is perfect, the correction in itself, but if we give it in an agitated, huffy, angry, irritated, false ego mood, it actually contaminates the person's heart. Because again, consciousness travels on sound vibration. So even if the correction in itself is perfect, but if it is given in that huffy mood, contaminates. And that's why we shouldn't give it in that mood. And I'm sure we have all been in this situation, right? Where we either give some correction in a huffy mood or we receive a correction in that mood. So how do we feel? Not so good, right? Yes. Yeah, it's an ugly feeling in the heart. So that is the contaminating effect of the false ego. And we may be confused. We may think, well, but I had to give this correction, so why do I have this ugly feeling now in the heart? Well, because we were giving it in an envious mood. That's why. Yeah. So whenever we find ourselves in a situation where we see somebody doing something wrong, doesn't matter whether it's kids or grandkids or devotees or whatever, if we are agitated, oh, how can the person do that? I have to tell them right now. Oh, better not to correct. Yeah, we have to wait until we really cool down. To sleep it over one night is a good trick. Next morning, the world looks already differently. Or we may have to sleep it over for 2 or 3 nights, whatever it takes. Yeah, but only when we are really, not in this irritated mood, then we should correct. And even there, before we give the correction, we can also have a prayerful moment where we pray, please, Krishna, help me to get this correction across in a dear, most well-wishing mood, being your dear, most well-wishing friend, wanting your very best. If we have that prayer, then Krishna allows us for those moments when we give the correction to be non-envious, even though we may not be free from envy all the time. And it really works, because a person can feel if we have this mood of really wanting their very best. As a rule, people accept the correction because they can feel that consciousness travels then on the sound vibration. But if we give it in a huffy, irritated mood, even with children, especially teenagers, then they, of course, they respond like that. It ignites their false ego, and then you have all these false ego battles there, Yes. Yeah, so good to understand these things. Yeah, so now the non-envious behavior towards juniors. What did Prabhupada say? Compassion, the magic word, that we affectionately, compassionately reach out. We want to uplift that person higher than we are. We are happy to celebrate his successes. That's a challenge for the false ego, to be truly happy about a person's success and glory. Yes. Actually, a non-envious person is very expert in connecting with everyone. Srila Prabhupada was the perfect example, He could connect with everyone and anybody and really act for their ultimate upliftment. Whether it was a child or a hippie or a drunkard or a scientist or a Christian priest or whatever. Prabhupada knew exactly how to uplift, in each and every situation. And sometimes Prabhupada was heavy, calling people fools and rascals. But because Prabhupada was 100% non-envious, people could feel that. And as a rule, they didn't take offense, even though Prabhupada was quite heavy sometimes. But we cannot imitate that. When we call people fools and rascals, most likely there's some portion of arrogance and envy and trying to put people down. Talking about, the karmis, a condescending way. And there was this nice story when Prabhupada went on a morning walk in Melbourne, and they were driving back in the car to the temple, and it was early in the morning, 6 o'clock or something. And in every Western city already at that time, people are rushing to work, so much traffic. So one of Prabhupada's disciples in the car, he was saying, "Look, Srila Prabhupada, all these mudhas rushing to work." And he was kind of a little in a, condescending mood there. But then Prabhupada's reaction, Prabhupada said, "Yes, how can we save them?" That's what Prabhupada said. And that devotee was, struck at Prabhupada's mood. And when he looked over to Prabhupada, he saw Prabhupada was actually crying a tear. How can we save them? Yes. Yes, but that disciple had a bit of a, down-putting way, these mudhas rushing to work. Thank God I'm not one of those, and not remembering that it's not so long ago that we all were part of these mudhas. So we have to be careful that we don't imitate Prabhupada. And towards equals. The envious behavior towards equals, our last relationship. Who remembers what Prabhupada said? Friend is the next one. You're ahead of us. We are proud of our own activities, right? So we chant our own glories, trying to impress the person how great we are. And the mood is, all right, we are equals, but actually, I'm a little superior, and I'm going to prove it to you. And then we tell what we've all been doing, Yes. And again, the contaminated intelligence can justify it all. I'm just cheering with my friend what I've been up to. What's wrong with that? So let's imagine two not so mature preachers meet, and I'm emphasizing not so mature. And one says to the other, "Oh, guess what? I was at the New York Rath Yatra, and they asked me to lead the kirtan. You want to have a look here, YouTube? I'll send you the link." And And then, yeah, stage program. Even though there was so many swamis there, they must have been tired. So they asked me to give the speech. You want to have a look here? You go there. And then I went to LA, and same thing happened there. You know, I led the kirtan, and I did this, and so many other Rasyatas. So, and then after a while, we say, "And what about you, Prabhu? What have you been doing?" So, and by then the person thinks, "Oh, wow, I have done nothing compared to you. You know, you're so great. I'm just nobody." So you won the competition, you know. Yes. So amongst equals who are envious, competition enters immediately. You know, that we want to prove that we actually are a little more experienced and empowered. And again, it happens in such a subtle way, we may just not even be conscious of it. You know. All in the name of sharing. I'm just sharing with my friend. What's wrong with that? You know? Yes. So, and then the non-envious behavior. Yeah, we had the envious one, competition. Non-envious behavior amongst equals. What did Prabhupada say? Friends. We make friendship. So now friendship, I mean, can't we also be friends with seniors and juniors? Why equals? You know? So yeah, we can be friends also with seniors and juniors, but amongst the equals, if they're non-envious, the friendship is especially sweet and intimate. So we don't have so much time left. Let me give the points. Out of Vaishnav humility, both see themselves actually as less qualified, you know? And therefore they push the other person forward. You are more qualified. I want to hear from you. You should give the class. Oh, you lead the kirtan. Your kirtans are so much more empowering and you know. So there is also a kind of competition there, but the competition of pushing each other forward, and they treat each other as seniors, so they're eager to inquire from each other, and they're also eager to serve, you know. And this pushing each other forward, that's actually the mood in the spiritual world. So it is described that the gopis receive more pleasure pushing the others forward to Krishna and assisting them to make the most pleasing arrangement for the Lord, rather than being there themselves. You know, that's the mood. So if we want to go there one day, we have to imbibe that mood. You know? And we can just imagine when our guru comes or something, are we in that mood of pushing the others forward? Usually not. We want to be the center of attention, and we want to get the credit and be noticed and recognized and all that. Yeah. So we've got quite a bit of work to do there in our hearts. You know. And yes, because that inquiry is very intimate, you know, on the equal level, we can inquire about each other's secrets in our bhajan, you know, which cannot take place really with seniors or juniors, but amongst equals, you can really, yeah, inquire more deeply about very confidential things. Let's say one says to the other, "Oh, Prabhu, you've been a brahmachari for 35 years, distributing Prabhupada's books every day on the street. How do you do it? What's your secret?" And the other one says, "And you've been married for 35 years. What's your secret? How do you do it? And you're still contributing to Prabhupada's mission and." So very confidential, intimate inquiry there. which can only take place on that level. So now my question to you, which relationship is most purifying? With seniors, with equals, with juniors? What do you think?
Juniors.
Hmm? Yes, with equals, actually. Yes. Because, you know, to say I'm the humble servant towards seniors, not so difficult. And we can always hope that some glory, some of their glory splashes over to us. Oh, look, it's always me next to Gumad. I'm such a confidential associate here. Every picture has me right there, you know. And to surround ourselves with juniors and say, oh, I'm your servant, that's also pretty easy. But equals, you know, and that relationship, the most biting and pinching envy from the most hidden corners of the heart come to the surface, because we have to show true color where we stand. Are we really a humble servant, or do we want to be the master in some way and superior and so on? Yes. Yes, and that's why His Holiness Radha Swami, he came up with a certain formula out of, and which I believe is not a Shastric formula, but he simply wants to bring attention to the importance of associating with equals. That he says, out of 100% of association, 60 should be spent with equals. 60%. Wow. And 20 with juniors, only 20, and 20 with the top level, but 60 with equals. So in the beginning, when we are young bhakta or something, it may be quite natural to have 60% equal association. But as we become more senior, well, often the figures are very different, you know. It's 95% junior association or 85, 10% senior, 5% equal. And sometimes we may even subconsciously avoid the equal association. We don't feel so comfortable in that association, you know. And again, contaminated intelligence can find all the justifications. Oh, I'm too busy with my project here. I don't have time to go to this event and all this. And yes. Yeah, so 60% equal. That's quite a lot. Yeah. And we may or maybe not, may have that experience. Let's say cooking lunch for our guru with two equally qualified cooks can be pretty intense. If it's one helper and one expert, no problem. But two experts, very easily the competition comes in. Who knows better what Guru Maharaj likes? And no, not like this. And no, don't you know his style changed? And I've seen it all over the years, you know. Or two equally qualified pujaris dressing up the deities for Janmashtami or something. Can also be some competition there. Who knows better how to beautify their lordships, or even making garlands and whatever, you know. It comes out in so many ways, you know. So to share our influence with somebody similarly influential, this is a challenge for the fourth ego, you know, because we want to be the main influential person. And yeah, very quickly, in the Bhagavatam, we do have some nice examples. Prithu Maharaj and Indra, you know, Prithu Maharaj had done Indra had done 100 sacrifices. So while Prithumaj had 99, Indra 100, no problem. But then as soon as Prithumaj wanted to do 100, the envy and competition entered. And what did they do? Stole each other's horses and yeah. Or we also have that nice story where Lord Brahma goes to Vaikuntha to see the Lord, and then the doorkeepers say, "Oh, who are you?" And Lord Brahma gets all agitated. "What do you mean? Don't you know I'm Lord Brahma?" And then, so what does the Lord do? He gives him equal association. He calls all the Lord Brahmas, you know, and there's Lord Brahmas with 10 heads, 100 heads, 1,000 heads. So, and that makes our Lord Brahma a little more humble. Okay, I've got only 4, you know, there's other Lord Brahmas there, you know, so yeah. So he gets a bit of equal association to make him a bit more humble, you know, yes. And we can say most of our conflicts in the world at large, but also in our communities, they do have their source in this difficulty of equal association. I mean, I have no clue what's happening in Philadelphia, but yeah, I'm traveling pretty widely all around the planet, basically. And in those communities where I go very regularly, I know there's so many, you know, ego battles and power battles going on, and, you know, yes, so it's a very common source of problems, you know, this equal association. And again, we may not identify it. We may think, well, it's just some personality clashes and this and that, you know. But no, it's actually the envy there. All right, 9 o'clock. Let me quickly see if anybody has a question. Can you give me these books? Anybody has a question? Yes. Give them one.
So you mentioned 60% of association should be within the, it's more than 50% of senior and 40% of junior.
Yeah.
Yourself are not so advanced in your conscious journey. How do you cultivate the want to spend time with somebody who is maybe like newer to Krishna consciousness? Because on the surface level, it may not seem like there's something to be gained by it, right? And that's just how I want to say that. Why would I prioritize my time? Or what would make me prioritize my time to spend with somebody who is like newer to
With equal or with juniors?
With like you have nothing to offer, or you have something better to do with your time.
Well, so that's a question of compassion, you know, that the neophyte stages, we are only worried about ourselves and my seva and my reading time and my japa and my interests and so on. But then we should come to the point where we are reaching out to others, that we have this mood, what can I give to somebody here, you know? Yeah. Because serving the devotees is one of the main and foremost keys to make spiritual advancement. Because the devotees are so dear to Krishna. So if we actually serve the devotees, this is even more endearing to Krishna than serving Krishna directly. Which of course doesn't mean we should neglect him there. But sometimes we are only focused on the deities, and then the Lord may say, well, all right, you do all these nice arrangements for me, but what about my devotees? They are neglected. They're not taken care of. And then, you know, yes. So that's why Krishna says, not he is the devotee who claims to be my devotee, but he is the devotee of my devotee. Yeah, so, you know, that requires a little bit of maturity to actually really, you know, see each and every person as specially invited guest. of their lordships, and how can I serve them? How can I encourage them? How can I offer them some little, smile or kind word, or, yes, very, very important. If everybody has that mood in a community, then it's Vaikuntha, yes. Okay, yes, Madhuri.
Yeah, I know in so many people envy, so many deep-rooted. How do we deal with different layer of envy when we're dealing with different devotees, with different people? It's very hard.
Yes, how to deal with people's envy. I mean, mainly we have to start dealing with our envy. And it is a pretty, deeper topic. I have some 5 steps, but I'm not sure it's 9:05. I do give these things also in 2 of my books, actually. 5 very practical, simple steps how to actually do some internal work. Or do you want me to quickly give them, or it just depends? I mean, I'm your humble servant here. We can go till 9:30 or something. It's up to you. Yes, but not that you all run out and eat already, because there's a few people who I haven't met yet, and I do want to say something about all these books too, But or shall I quickly? Yeah, I mean, I can do it very brief, So, because very commonly this is the question. Okay, so but sometimes people say, my God, this was a heart surgery. Now I realize I've got it all. Envy towards seniors equals juniors. It's me. It's there, So now what do we do? So step number 1 is always hearing. Actually, these steps work for any kind of internal transformational work. First step is always hearing. We have to hear how things affect us, how false ego affects us, envy and all these things, So first step is hearing, and that hopefully wakes us up, that we become more conscious of these things. Without being conscious, there's no hope. We can always justify it, and So first thing is hearing. Then step number 2 is desiring, that we realize, okay, I have to do something about this. It's not going to go away just by chance automatically. No, I have to do some internal work. And I really want to kick this out of my heart because I want to go back to God. So desiring is step number 2. Then step number 3, being introspective and honest, always reflecting. Why did I say this? Why did I do this? What just took place in this exchange? It has to become like our second nature. That's what it means that we are conscious, that we are always reflecting and introspecting what is actually really taking place in our dealings with devotees. I mean, that's why, serving in the association of devotees is so immensely purifying. Yeah, because there these things come up. If we sit at home and we do our own thing there, well, then these things don't come so much to the surface, but in cooperation with other devotees, that's where it all comes up, Yeah, so without this introspection and reflection, we actually cannot make advancement. We will always maintain so many patterns of behaviors there which are helpful. And then we perform the 10th offense of maintaining material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It's also the subtleties, maintaining this attachment of wanting to be right and wanting to be superior And at this point, introspection, we need the help of a mentor. because very often we ourselves don't even see it. False ego is so powerful, it covers our ears and our intelligence, and we can't see, we can't understand. So we need this well-wishing friend in our life who is more experienced and who has no other interest except helping us in our spiritual growth. Yeah. Utmost importance. Just having Diksha Shiksha gurus, not enough. They're often far away, they don't know what's happening. So we need somebody who can observe us a little bit, how we're practicing, how we're serving, how is our sadhana, and who helps us to actually move forward. You know? Yeah. So then step number 4. We catch ourselves doing the wrong thing. That's already progress. That we realize, here we go again. I couldn't help myself. I had to make that little part, you know, in regards to his kirtans or lectures or whatever, but yeah, something we find and so on. So we catch ourselves doing the wrong thing. We've done it so many times before and without catching ourselves, but now we realize, I shouldn't have said that. You know? So now, after catching ourselves doing the wrong thing, what's the next step? My question to you.
Changing the behavior.
Well, if it was just so easy, you know, we can make that resolution so many times. I'm not going to do this again, but 5 minutes later we do it again. So that's not going to get us very far. Any other idea? What do we do? Huh? Contemplation. Yeah, well, that's in introspection, reflection. But now, what do we do? Yes, pray. Crying out to Krishna. Yeah, that's the solution. Lord Nrsimhadev. He is the one. He is the expert heart surgeon with his long nails. Actually, Lord Nrsimhadev prepares our heart to one day approach Radha Krishna. Yeah. So we have to invite him. Yeah. Good thing to start when we chant our japa, to first turn to Lord Nrsimhadev. Oh, please get these Hiranyakashipus out of my heart. I'm sick and tired of them. Yes. Yes. Only he can do it, because false ego is so subtle. We've been carrying it with us for so many lifetimes. You know, we out of our own strength, we cannot free us from the influence of false ego. No, we have to beg Lord Nrsimhadev to do the job. So, and if we do these last 3 steps again and again, being introspective and honest, catching ourselves doing the wrong thing, crying out to Krishna, introspection and honesty, catching ourselves doing the wrong things, crying out to Krishna. So then sooner or later we come to the 6th step. We catch ourselves doing the right thing. Some daily situation will come our way and we realize, wow, 2 weeks earlier I would have reacted differently, but now I could just let it go by and it didn't irritate me. And okay, no problem. You know, yes. So then we realize it actually works. You know. But we have to constantly work on this. I'm doing it myself, and I can see, yes, gradually some transformation happens. But yeah, and when a devotee agrees to do this internal work, then we actually make advancement. So making advancement is not an external thing of, you know, getting up there in the ladder of hierarchy and having 55,000 followers on Facebook and all that. No, it's all the internal thing, yeah, that we do some work there. Yes, that's when we actually make advancement. All right, let me quickly say a couple of things about each book, just for those who haven't heard that yet and maybe somehow online. Spiritual culture, Krishna's divine system. This is all about women. We women have a very powerful Shakti, and Bhagavatam tells us we should be the power of inspiration to the men and not compete with the men. Yes. It's very thought-provoking, maybe not something for everybody. You know, we have to be open. We have to have an open heart and open mind. And the false ego should not be in our way. You know, otherwise, yeah, there's a few little things which may be a little pinching to our false ego, but that's good, my God. We want it, you know, ultimately. But yeah, people who don't want to transform and get some deeper insights, they better shouldn't look at the book. So now I made you really curious. And the book being about women doesn't mean it's only for women. Now, in India, actually, practically all the big temples have this book in the brahmachari ashram to train the brahmacharis. It reestablishes the powerful role we women are meant to play. So anybody who wants to rediscover fascinating womanhood. I heard in America, not in ISKCON, but outside, there is some new trend, the trad wives. Have you heard of the trad wives? Trad stands for traditional. Yeah, there's a whole movement out there. Yeah. Yeah. That they say, yes, let's be homemakers and cook for our family. And when the husband comes home, we put some flowers in our hair and all this. And I'm thinking, my God, somebody sent me something, you know. And I thought, that sounds like what we read in the Bhagavatam, you know, flowers in the hair. Prabhupada says that in one chapter, you know. So yeah, there is a whole movement out there, the trad wives, you know. Interesting. And then we have sheltering relationships. This is all about the importance of mentorship, to have a mentor and eventually becoming one. And actually, today's topic is in this book, because the envy blocks us the most from serving as mentor and reaching out to juniors and accepting a mentor and inquiring. So the envy is what stands in our ways, you know. So yeah, and there's so much more in it. Also the culture of correcting others, culture of respect, and the importance of having a mentor and qualities a mentor should have. And so it's a very important topic, because we have lost so many devotees over the years, you know, because we didn't understand the importance of mentorship. Then we have the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. So we said envy, false ego, they are good friends. So there's a lot of interesting things. Yesterday we had the topic of forgiveness in the Bhakti Garden there. And we were reading some forgiveness meditations of that book. So if we can't forgive, if we keep grudges, it all goes back to the false ego, crying for justice and fairness. And yeah, in both of these books, you have these 5 steps described. And here is also a whole chapter on chanting, how to chant in japa and kirtan, to subdue and dissolve the false ego and not feed and boost it. It's all happening. Kirtan can be the opportunity to feed the false ego. Then we have entering the Grihastha ashram. This is a handbook for matchmaking, how to see that a man and a woman are compatible for marriage. We need a bit of help. We have such a high divorce rate in ISKCON, and it's very much connected with yeah, not good matchmaking. The people are often actually not compatible. And just out of unfulfilled needs, they attract each other like magnets, but then, or we get all infatuated and fall in love or in lust. And then we have the pink glasses and then we can't see what we get into. And yeah, so there's a whole list of over 200 topics which a man and a woman should discuss with a cool head, before they allow the emotions to get involved. We want to protect our heart a little bit in the beginning and first check the person out. How is she thinking about this and that and this and that? There's so many things to talk about. And then as we see, yeah, we are actually on the same wavelengths. So then we can allow our heart to get involved. So it's an important book for anybody who is not married yet, or anybody who wants to help others to find a matching partner. I consider it as one of the most important aspects of devotee care, actually, to help people find a matching partner. Yes. Everywhere I go, there's so many people who want to get married, who should get married, but there's nobody to help them. And then the temple room becomes the place for hunting and fishing, and it contaminates the whole atmosphere. Or then people think, oh, let me go on Navadvip Mandala Parikrama, maybe I meet somebody there. Yes, are you laughing? But no, this is what's happening. Yes, it contaminates the whole atmosphere. Yeah, or Raj Mandala, even more change, it's 4 weeks, maybe I find somebody there. Yes, no, true. What choice do people have if there's nobody in our communities to help? And it's all in the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada always says it, how it should be done, but yeah, we're not quite there yet. So, and then we have family life as an ashram, secrets of success, how to create the culture of bhakti in our home. Such an important thing. Many married devotees' home, you can't call it an ashram, a place suitable for cultivating bhakti. And then the progress is very slow, and then that gives married life a bad name. These grihastas are just a Maya, and look at them, and so on. So yeah, how to actually really mold it into a place suitable for cultivating bhakti. There's so many practical things, all based on Prabhupada. And there's a whole chapter on physical intimacy in marriage, how to live this principle of, let's say 6-5. Nobody talks about it. There's quite a bit of confusion, and if we don't maturely understand this, it can again lead to so many marriage problems. And so I did some research. I came across interesting episodes with Prabhupada where he says things which most people have not heard, because it's not in the Bhagavatam. So it adds a whole different perspective to the topic. And last but not least, the Vanapasasha, Meeting Death with Joy. That's my latest book. There's a whole chapter on death, what happens there, how to prepare, how to support others. I've supported quite a few people in these last 2 weeks, and it's a very crucial time, and we have to be educated how to give maximum support. Quite a few people said to me, oh, I wish I had read this book before my mother passed away, then I would have known more how to support her. Even if people are not devotees, you will find a lot of good things there, which we have to know, And Vanapasa Ashram, for those who don't know, this is the phase when the kids are grown up and established in life. Parents are meant to move on, or if there are no kids, or if we're not even married, and still we are heading towards 50. There's a lot of relevant practical things, how to live this last phase in life so we can meet death with joy. So all these books, by the way, they are 15-hour courses, which I offer in Mayapur. But since not everybody can come into Mayapur and take these courses, that's why I put them in book form. They're very useful for preachers also, because each book is a course. So all you have to do is read 1-2 chapters, take some notes, ready as your presentation. You know, many temples around the world, they use them for devotee training. So if any of you would like to get some books, the last 4 books are $20 each. The first 2 are $15 each. For the whole set is a little discount. The whole set is $100. So now the situation is, I don't even have so many books left. I distributed so many more than I expected just in the 2 programs we had yesterday and the day before. But what we do, I already started a list of orders. So I have a few books on the book table there near the Prasadam hall. But if we are out, then people just can put their name, phone number there. We tick which books they want. They pay me already up front, hoping that you trust me. And then I send another box, and then you will get what you ordered. They come by courier from Mayapur, so it doesn't even take long. It takes a week or something. All right. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Oh yeah, just in case we have some Russian-speaking devotees, I have 2 books also in Russian available. The first one about women and the Volsiger book. But yeah, I don't have it here now, but it's sitting in Mayapur. I have many boxes there, so no problem. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki. Gaura Premanandi. Yes, and if anybody wants some books, you can meet me at the book table there on the way to Prasadam. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very nice.
Okay.
We all need to hear that.
Yes.
We had it, we don't acknowledge it.
Yes. And it's really good.
Hare Krishna, thank you, all the devotees online. Mother Devaki will be here for a few more days. She has a program tonight in Ben Salem. Tomorrow morning, she'll be at Krishna Village in Delaware. She'll be here speaking tomorrow night at the Sunday Feast. And then Tuesday evening in the temple at 6:30, she will have her last program here in Philadelphia. So if you didn't get a chance to see her in person, or you know anyone else that would like to see her, please invite them to one of these programs coming up and get her association. All right. Thank you, dear devotees. Have a great day. Hare Krishna.